Hello and welcome to today's Student Success Workshop. The topic today is organization and time management, which are two of the most important skills that any university student needs to succeed. So before we begin, I'll let you know who I am. My name is Raquel Lado. I'm a learning strategist and assistive technologist here at Algoma University's Learning Center. I help students develop their school skills to become better students and utilize learning strategies to help make them more efficient and effective as they go through their university career. So today, in terms of organization and time management, we're going to look at scheduling, we're going to look at assignment breakdown, and we're going to look at what you need to do when it's actually time to get work done. So, to begin with scheduling, when you go to your class for the first time, you should get a course outline or a course syllabus, and that is a very important document. It's going to contain a list of all the important assignments and test dates that you have for a semester. It's going to have your textbook information, and it's also going to have your reading schedule, which is again very important in terms of scheduling. It's going to have expectations and policies of the professor and the university. Now, these are important because different professors have different expectations. So one example is in terms of late assignments. One professor may say, I will accept late assignments at a 2% deduction per day. Another professor may say, I will accept late assignments with a 5% deduction. Just today I looked at a course outline with a student and it said on there that late assignments would be penalized 20% per day. So if you're more than 2 days late, there's almost no point in handing it in because you're going to automatically lose 40%. So different professors have different policies, and it's really important that you know those policies as you get into the class. Another policy that you might want to be aware of is how class assignments and essays are going to be submitted. Can they be submitted electronically via email? Do they want them uploaded via CMS? Do they want a physical paper copy delivered and handed in during the class? So all those types of things are outlined in the course outline. So it's really important that you read through it very, very carefully and get a good sense of how your semester is going to look with that professor in that class, what they're going to expect you to do, how they expect you to submit it, and sort of what happens if you're late or don't get something in. So you put it in a binder, don't lose it, make sure you hold on to it. Very important. From the course outlines, you can now sort of organize your semester. So a semester calendar is a calendar that will display all 4 months of a semester. Now, you can buy a reusable wall calendar, and you write on a dry erase marker and you reuse it every semester. Or you can just simply take any old calendar, rip out the 4 months of the semester, put them up on your wall, or even just print offline on a blank template. Any way that you can see the 4 months of a semester. So you've got September, October, November, December, or January, February, March, April. And then what you do is you go through each course outline and you look at what due dates do you have. You write that down on your semester calendar. Some students even go farther and actually highlight with different colors for different classes. So what happens is at the end of that, you have 4 months laid out, you have all of your due dates laid out, you have your test dates, your midterms, everything there, and you can start to see how your semester is going to look. What can happen is you have what I call crunch times, and that's where you have quite a few things due at the same period of time. You want to remember that professors don't talk to each other, and they don't say, well, I'm giving a midterm on this day, when are you giving your midterm? Oh, okay, well, I'll change mine. So what happens is you often have a lot of things happening in a very short period of time, and then you might have what looks like an empty couple of weeks, and then you have a lot of things happening again. So organizing your time is really important to get everything done, and done well, and done on time. Now, a weekly schedule. A weekly schedule is going to start with your weekly classes, when they take place. You're also going to include any other constant events that you might have. So if you have a job, if you play sports, pub nights, whatever, anything that you're going to sort of consistently do week by week should be laid out on your weekly schedule. And then you're going to get an idea of when do I have time to actually do work. So if my only class on Monday is a night class at 7, well, I know that really during the day on Monday, that's a really good day for me to get a lot of work accomplished. So that weekly schedule lets you see when can you start filling in the time with all the hours of schoolwork that you need to do outside of class. Now, we've got a semester calendar laid out. You sort of know your weekly schedule. You've got some ideas when you can get work accomplished. And the next step then is getting into looking at day by day. And this is where an agenda comes in really handy. You need to have some sort of system where you're going to record what you need to be working on today. Now, at Algoma University, we provide free agendas for students at the beginning of the school year through our student union. And we strongly encourage every student to grab one of those. If you don't have a free agenda, you can go buy an agenda. If you don't want a paper agenda, you can use something electronic. You can use an iPod Touch, you can use your phone, you can use something, but the point is somehow, somewhere, you need to be actively recording the things you need to do today. And you always have things you need to do today. So, get an agenda of some sort. Carry it with you. The first step is to rewrite all the due dates. And I know that seems like duplicate work, but you can't carry your semester calendar around with you because we've put that up on the wall at home or on the fridge or somewhere where we're going to see it. So the agenda is a lot smaller and a lot more portable. We're going to get in the habit of carrying that with us, hopefully. So it has all the due dates in it. We put in other events that we're not going to miss, whether they're academic or social, doctor's appointments, whatever. And then we start getting in the habit of writing daily to-do lists. Now, it takes a bit of time to get organized. And it takes a little bit of time continually to get and stay organized. But it's well worth it in the end. So in your agenda, you need to have a point of time in the day where you sit down and you say, what do I need to do today? So it could be that this is something that you start your day with every morning. It could be that it's the last thing you do in the evening. You think of the day ahead. So in asking yourself, what do I need to do today? One thing is you go to your course outlines and you look at your reading schedules. For every single class, you have reading that needs to be done. This isn't a reading workshop, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but it is important that you get that reading done before the class. So that's one of the things that you need to be doing all the time. The next thing is you're looking at your semester calendar and you're saying, okay, what's coming up? Well, for many students, it's right now the month of March. It's probably one of the busiest months of the school year, and there are essays due within a couple weeks. There's midterms that are happening or have just happened. There's presentations that are due at the end of the month. Final exams are 6 weeks away. So there's a lot going on. So you need to look ahead at that semester calendar and say, okay, what's coming up? I need to get started. What do I need to do today to start it? Okay? Be reasonable in your daily goals. It does not make any sense to say I'm going to read 6 chapters in a textbook today. It doesn't make sense to spend 14 or 16 hours working on only one subject either. The idea is that you are starting everything early and can balance all your subjects out. Include time for you. University is not only about academics. I feel very strongly about that. University is about a balance between academics, doing what you need to do well to graduate, but it really is also a time to meet new people, make new friends, discover your interests. There's a big social component to university. So you really want to have a good balance where you can get your schoolwork done and still have time to do the things that are important to you. So, a little bit of time every day, a little bit of time every week, thinking, what do I need to do today, jotting it down, and striving to get that done. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Now, a student gave this suggestion to me. He did not have any luck with a paper agenda because he left it everywhere, he forgot it, he never had it. And he came across this free one called keepandshare.com. He really liked it because he spent a lot of time on the computer. So he made a point of coming to me, to saying how much he liked it, so I make a point of sharing it. keepandshare.com. Okay, did you know that 1 hour of class should equal approximately 2 hours of independent work? Now, independent work at university is going to be made up of doing the readings for your class, research for assignments, writing essays, studying, working with groups for group presentations, designing PowerPoints. There's a lot of things that involves. So in a typical year, you have 15 hours worth of class. So 15 hours of class plus your 30 hours of outside work equals about 45 hours. Now, a typical work week is 40 hours, right? I work Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, 40 hours. So if you treat university like a job and work sort of a 9 to 6 kind of day, Monday to Friday, basically you could have nights and weekends free. And what that means though is that during the day, Monday to Friday, you're not wasting your time watching YouTube videos and on Facebook and sitting in the cafeteria socializing and playing euchre and everything else. You're really utilizing that time to get your schoolwork done. And then you have your nights and weekends free because more social events happen on nights and weekends than they do, a Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So it's a good premise to follow. It's something I followed at university, not really knowing about it, just that I'm not great for schoolwork in the evenings. I'm much more of a morning person. So I did kind of follow this and it worked out really well for me. All right, so assignment breakdown. So we're going to talk about understanding the assignment, creating an assignment schedule, and then the editing process. Okay, so you get an assignment from a professor. It's so important that you understand what you need to do for the assignment. I've unfortunately had more than one student come to me and say that they did a lot of work, hours and hours and hours worth of work, handed in an assignment to be told that they did not do the right thing. Now, in most cases, the professor let them redo it, which is wonderful. But there's nothing worse than finding that out, that all those hours you've put in were really just a waste of time. So make sure you understand what you need to do. You need to start early with assignments. University assignments take a fair amount of time, okay? But if you need assistance along any step of the way, it can sometimes be difficult to get in contact with professors. Professors have limited office hours, and there's a difference between the professors that are sort of here full time and the professors that are sessionals. Sessionals tend to have their own outside job, come here one evening a week to teach, which means they're much more difficult to get a hold of to sit down and talk something through. So you need to start early, so you have lots of time to get in touch with the professor if there's anything you need clarification on along the way. Now, typically university students require a great deal of time to complete well. So what happens is students tend to underestimate the time required. And what I don't have on the PowerPoint is that students also tend to overestimate their abilities. So they look at an assignment and say, oh, that's only a 2,000-word essay and I only need 4 sources and that's not bad and I could probably pull it off in a weekend. And then what they find out is that it's going to take way more time than they ever anticipated and they don't work nearly as fast as they thought. And then they get in a situation where now they're staying up all night and trying to get it done on time, and what they're handing in isn't really very good anyway because they had to rush it. So typically you get an assignment well in advance of the due date. Start immediately so that you can work on it in small chunks instead of having to do 14, 16, 24-hour blitzes to try and get it finished. So once you get an assignment, the first thing you do is determine what you need to do. Second, you determine the steps that you need to do, that you need to go through in order to complete the assignment. So you work backwards from the due date and create a timeline. Be reasonable, give yourself enough time to complete each step, and then try very, very hard to stick to that time frame. So you look at the assignment and you say, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, I understand that. How am I going to get this done? Well, this involves a lot of research. I need to find a primary source document, for example, for a history essay. Where am I going to find that? And so on. And so you go through the steps and you create sort of a plan to get it done in time. Good research is very time consuming. Okay? And many students do not allot enough time for research. And they also have a too general of an idea when they go into it. So you need to have a very specific goal or plan when you start your research. And count on it taking a lot more time than you originally think. You're going to have to go through a lot of articles, a lot of databases to find the specific things that you're looking for. And that takes a lot of time. Okay? So starting early is very key. Now, editing. Leave enough time to have your work edited. Now, if you are rushed right down to the very last minute, the last hour, obviously you don't have time to get it done. But if you can get it done in enough time, have someone look it over. Going back to what I said about policies, I just read a course outline with a student and it said, this was for a business class, and it said the professor will only allow 1 typographical or grammar error per page, per assignment. If there's more than 1, he will start deducting marks. So that's a shame. When your content is really, really good and you're losing marks just because of rushing through your grammar and typos and silly mistakes, that's a shame to start losing marks for things like that. So you can edit your own work, you can ask a friend in the class. If you would like to use Algoma University's Writing Lab, we have an excellent resource available, but you need to plan ahead and book an appointment early. As we get into the very busy parts of the semester, the booking can get very, very full, and sometimes you're booking a week or 2 in advance. So I see students come into the Learning Center and say, oh, my essay's due at 4 o'clock, it's 1:30, can I get into the Writing Lab to get it checked? Well, the answer is no. the time slots for this day have been booked up for well over a week. So you really do need to plan ahead to access that service. Okay, so time to work. Here's the thing, organization and time management is really there's two things that happen here. One of them is the organization part in terms of my due dates, when are things due, what am I going to do, creating a list, this is what I need to do today. But the next part of it is actually doing that work, okay? So we're going to talk about time of day, we're going to talk about distractions, a little bit of procrastinating, and focus, focus, focus. Okay, so I have some questions for you to think about. Where will you work the best? So, now maybe it's reading you need to do, maybe you're studying, okay? You have a lot of options as to where you're going to do this work. Where do you live? Do you live in residence or do you still live with your family at home? In residence, do you have depending on where you are, do you have your own room or is it shared? At home, are you living, with 4 younger siblings, for example? So what's going on where you live? Is that the best place for you to be? If you come on campus and work, well, again, there's a lot of choices here. You can work in a study carrel in the library. You could work in a student computer lab. You could work in the middle of the cafeteria, right? So depending where you go, there's a lot of pros and cons. Some places really are far more made for socializing, like the cafeteria, than they are for working. So that's something you need to think about. When I think about myself at university, when I went to university, I had a roommate named Tammy, and Tammy and I shared a very small room. And so there was not a lot of space in there at all. And it was also in a hallway of 30 other people. And so I found out for myself very early on that staying in residence was the worst place for me to stay to get work done. I'm very social and I like people. It's easy to distract me. So my roommate Tammy could start talking to me and there I'd forget about work. Someone could be walking down the hall, poke their head in my room and say, oh hi, what are you doing? Even if I was in the middle of reading, I would probably go, oh nothing, what are you doing? So it was really, really easy to distract me. So I found for myself, if I truly wanted to get work done, I had to pack it up, I had to go to the library, I had to isolate myself in a study carrel, and I would just sit down and get my work done. Now my roommate, Tammy, she didn't tend to do that. She tended to stay in residence. And as a consequence, she ended up missing out on a lot of social events and things that were happening because she didn't get her work done when she sort of said she was going to get it done. And so think about for you, if the place you're in, if that environment isn't working for you, you need to really relocate. You need to be somewhere where you can actually focus. Now, what is your best time to get work done? I mentioned earlier, I'm much more of a morning person in terms of sort of academic work, concentrating, memorizing, that sort of thing. And so setting out my plan, I know that in the mornings and into the early afternoon, I'm going to be far better than I am at, let's say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock is probably the worst time of day for me. So think about that as well when you're scheduling the day. What habits need to change? I have a lot of students that come into my office that may be on academic probation, that may be struggling. I also see a lot of students that are wonderful students too. And many of them admit that they spend a lot of time really doing nothing. As someone just said to me the other day, I sit and I watch YouTube videos and I'm on Facebook, but it's really nothing. They're really not doing anything. And at the end of the day, they've accomplished nothing in terms of schoolwork. And kind of wasted the day. So think about for yourself, what habits do you need to change? Do you need to maybe turn off the computer and walk away from it if you don't need it for your assignment? And then what are your priorities? If your priority is to do well in university, then that needs to be a priority in your behaviors and your actions every day. Okay? Now, so time of day. Try to schedule things that require the most concentration when you are at your best. Do the things that require the least concentration or are more interesting at your least effective times. So I'm going to use myself as an example, and I talk about this as well in the reading workshop that I do. I have 2 degrees, one of them is in psychology. Psychology to me is very interesting and very fascinating. It's not really hard for me to make myself read my psychology textbook. However, there's other classes I don't like as much, and history is one of them. And it was something I had to take. I didn't really enjoy it. I know many people do, but it's not really for me. So that means that history for me requires a lot more concentration than psychology does. So what I need to do is I actually need to do history first thing in the morning when I'm at my best, and not tired out from the day, and I can leave psychology till a little bit later because I'm so interested in it that it will help overcome sort of my tiredness at that point in the day, and I can get into it and get engaged with it. Okay, so think about that. I was going to say get rid of, but do the things you're not so interested in first, get them out of the way, and then you can hopefully focus on the things you're more interested in after. So you sit down to work, and what distracts you? Everybody has a list of things that distract them. How can you change that? I mentioned earlier, sometimes you just need to relocate. You need to get out of your residence room, for example, and go to the quiet floor of the library and get stuff done. Do the best you can to eliminate distractions. It's never going to be perfect, but you do the best you can. And studies have proven that we're not actually very good at multitasking. And so I'm seeing a lot of students, they're texting while they're reading, and then they're reading a textbook, and they're quickly popping onto Facebook to see what someone's update was, and so on. And they're kind of jumping all over the place, and really they're not actually accomplishing very much. Okay? So we're not very good at multitasking. We want to be, but we're not. Okay, so we schedule time to work, and then we actually do the work. So time to work means time to work. Focus on what you're doing, give it your attention, and take small breaks. Working on an academic level reading or research or whatever can be draining on us mentally, so we need to take breaks. So if we're really good for half an hour, 45 minutes an hour, we work really well, and then we take a break and we allow ourselves, we can go socialize, we can, get on the internet for a couple minutes. But pay attention to the breaks. Small breaks have a way of getting away on us and turning into a whole afternoon. Okay? So pay attention to that. Also, switch subjects to keep things more interesting. Instead of trying to do 6 hours straight of something, break it up into smaller sections, and I'm going to do, psychology reading here, and then I'm going to go research for my sociology paper here, and then I'm going to go back to psychology, and then I'm going to take lunch, and then I'm going to maybe actually do my math assignment, and so on. But by switching subjects, it keeps us a little bit more mentally engaged and interested in what we're doing. Okay, so a great website I want to share with you. The University of Minnesota has something called an assignment calculator. And so you don't need to necessarily worry about that. If you just Google, I'm pretty sure if you just Google assignment calculator, it will bring you there. But what it does is it creates a timeline for you based on the due date of your assignment and the current date. But what it also does is it breaks it down into steps that you need to do and provides help and information with every step along the way. So if you had a sociology essay due in a month, you went on there today, from today to the due date, it's going to break it down for you. And then let's say one of the steps was create a thesis statement. If you click on that, it's going to open up a lot of links and information about how to create a thesis statement, what makes an effective thesis statement, examples of good thesis statements, and so on. So not only does it provide you a timeline and how to get it done in small steps, but it also provides you with a lot of help and resources along the way. So it's a very good tool. So my final thought is, I used to wonder how other students got so much done. Now that I'm using a planner, I wonder how I settled for doing so little. All of us have the same amount of time in a day. And yet some of us are able to accomplish a great deal of things, and others accomplish nothing. And it's not necessarily a case of intelligence. Many times it's a case of organization and time management skills, establishing priorities, and basically when it's time to work, getting down to work. Now, I'm not going to show this now, but I do want to mention it. If you go to YouTube, there's a video series called How to Get the Most Out of Studying, or How to Study Long and Hard and Still Fail. So if you simply go to YouTube and put in How to Get the Most Out of Studying, it's a 5-part series by Dr. Stephen Chu, who is a professor in an American university, and he's a psychologist that specializes in learning. I find them to be very, very well done. They're short, they're to the point. None of them in particular are about organization, but part 1 is called Beliefs That Make You Fail or Succeed, and it is very good. It's certainly worthwhile watching, so I recommend that. So YouTube, How to Study Long and Hard, YouTube, How to Get the Most Out of Studying, part 1, and if you have time, watch all 5 parts of the series, because they're very, very good. So my last slide is my contact information. I'm here to help students however I can. There's a lot of students that I sit down and help with organization and time management. So if you're here at Algoma U's main campus, You can come into the Learning Center at any time. I have an open door. You just need to come in. I may be busy at that moment, but I'll make an appointment with you. You can email me at raquel.lato@algomau.ca. You can call me. My extension here is 4225, and I'm also on Skype. My Skype name is raquel.lato. So I really encourage you, if you need help with organization and time management, to please get in contact with me, and we can sit down one-on-one and we can talk about you, we can talk about your classes and your semester and your life, and see if we can get a plan to get you a little bit more organized and on task. So thank you very much for joining in. If you are a college transfer student and you're watching this prior to March 23rd, you can be eligible to enter into the draw for an iPad 2. What you need to do is email me at raquel.lato@algomau.ca, and in the email, say the name of the video that you watched, and you have to say the password. The password for this video is the name of my university roommate, and you also have to email me with one tip that you have learned. If you email me that information, I will fill out 2 ballots for you with your name, and I will enter them into the draw. And again, that's only for college transfer students, and the draw will take place March 23rd at noon. Thank you very much.